In 1879, a man by the name of Richard Henry Pratt founded the Carlisle Indian School in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It was here that indigenous people were stripped of their culture, language, and ideals. Pratt would go on to serve as headmaster of the school for 25 years, overseeing these atrocities unfold over a great period of time. During a speech he gave in 1892, he uttered this ominous message. A great general has said that the only good Indian is a dead one. In a sense, I agree with the sentiment, but only in this, that all the Indian there is in the race should be dead. Kill the Indian in him and save the man.
The experiences that the children had at boarding school were very traumatic to indigenous communities across the country. They were, forcibly removed from their families early on, where they had no choice, that attendance became mandatory. Actually, boarding schools has a huge history in the country where at first it was an experiment. And, an Army captain, he got this experience from working with Apache prisoners of war. Just think about how much we can teach children, what we can do with children versus adults. And so that's kind of became an experiment.
Carlisle was the first of many Native American boarding schools that popped up all over the United States in the late 1800s to early 1900s. By this time, most Native American land was under the control of the United States. These boarding schools were just the government's way of finishing the job, so to speak. They had already taken their land, now they just had to take their culture.
They were, immediately also changed their appearance, haircut. Many times they were bathed immediately in like a delousing material that oftentimes was used for horses. They had long hair and they were, some of them had no shoes. And so by white standards, they meant poverty. So these kids come in, they look like that, and then they're like, oh, but look, with your money, this is what we can do. And it, shows an after picture, and they're in suits or they're in uniforms and their hair is cut and they look clean. And by white standards, they are in a better situation.
The effects of these atrocities are still present in today's world. Hardly anyone is fluent in any of the Native American languages, and a lot of the culture and traditions are things of the past now.
We were centralized to the Gordnier School District, and as I parented my 7 children, and as I was going to school to become a teacher and talked with my mother and realized how I disciplined my children was that of a matron, even though I didn't go to boarding school. I had the stern voice, and my kids would know when I meant serious business. I did hit them, and I didn't know that it was not right.
At boarding schools, children weren't nurtured, they weren't loved. So we still feel those impacts of boarding schools socially and emotionally within our communities.
As children went to boarding school, especially the ones that weren't day pupils, they didn't go to ceremonies or longhouse or have any kind of that culture.
The biggest, to me, in my opinion, the biggest and saddest thing and impact that we have on boarding schools in our communities today is the loss of our language. We're fighting to get back what our ancestors had naturally. So we're relying on our elders who are, even before boarding school or who resisted that assimilation. That's probably the saddest thing that impacts indigenous communities across the country, really, is that loss of our indigenous languages. And a huge shameful part of American history that's not talked about by most.
After 150 years, the United States government eventually stopped the program. But the federal government has never formally apologized for what happened. Until today, I formally apologize as President of the United States of America for what we did. I formally apologize